MSNBC just fired their host, Tiffany Cross, and even if the name doesn't ring a bell, you've definitely seen clips of her spewing her virulent anti-whiteism. In fact, I know this is hard to believe, but she actually made Joy Reid seem pleasant in comparison. This woman was so toxic that everyone in the industry knows that she was synonymous for one thing.
Tiffany Cross, the most racist person in all of television, and in particular on MSNBC, just got fired. Poor Tiffany.
I would just add one small correction. The most anti-white person in all of television. Again, because when somebody hears that someone is racist, they automatically assume that that person must be white, and that's something that white people do to non-white people. So the term anti-white or anti-whiteism should really be used to describe such despicable people like Tiffany Cross and her mentor, Joy Reid. Just 2 weeks ago, Tucker Carlson highlighted her anti-whiteism and pointed out the obvious, that such unhinged and over-the-top rhetoric puts white people at risk of being attacked by unhinged people. And so the twits on Twitter and her allies in the liberal media are blaming Tucker Carlson for getting the show canceled. This from the Huffington Compost. MSNBC cancels the Cross Connection after Tucker Carlson verbally attacked the host. It's Tucker's fault. This is a small compilation that Tucker put together just 2 weeks ago.
Many of us have seen the dangers when powerful white people decide they want something, they annex it. And they've never had a problem replacing the people who stand in their way.
We see American white people are going crazy. They're resorting to violence.
This is literally what conservative white folks do when they don't get their way. They turn violent.
White people deputizing themselves in some position of authority to have jurisdiction over their life when they need to mind their blanking business.
This was the same woman who called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist for defending himself against angry Black Lives Matter supporters.
I find these people disgusting, Ellie. I'm disgusted at what I'm seeing. This trial as other trials, but this in particular, the fact that white supremacists roam the halls of Congress freely and celebrate this little murderous white supremacist, and the fact that he gets to walk the streets freely, it lets you know these people have access to instituting laws. They represent the legislative branch of this country. What are we to make of that?
Well, you're to make of the fact that Kyle was found not guilty by a jury of his peers because he acted in self-defense. I'm actually surprised that she got fired because she seemed to be perfectly in line with MSNBC's anti-white agenda, and now with the midterms just a couple days away, they're saying that anybody who reports on crime is racist.
There's a major concern surrounding the racist rhetoric that often goes hand in glove with the law and order messages.
Republicans are pulling out all the old fear and loathing playbook, trying to scare voters about crime.
They have now turned to a strategy that sensationalizes crime, that weaponizes crime, and that racializes crime.
The other guys play the crime card relentlessly and shamelessly. It's got racial elements to it. Let's just call that for what it is.
Type of crime that scares Republican and independent voters the most, to make them believe that crime is skyrocketing, that America is a hellhole.
Well, you live in New York City, sir, so you certainly would know. Joy Reid, who is, strangely enough, committing cultural appropriation, having dyed her hair blonde out of white envy, is extremely upset with MSNBC's decision.
I want to say one quick thing about my friend, colleague, and sister, Tiffany Cross. She's not just my friend, she is my sister.
My sister.
I love her. I support her.
You hate white people like her?
I was boosting for her to get the show that she created, the Cross Connection, which she put her heart and soul into every day. And I just want to say that those on the far right who are attacking her on a social media app that I won't name, you don't understand how sisters move. So watch this space. We will be here. Her sisters will be here to support anything Tiffany Cross ever does. Know that. Believe that. That's tonight's readout. All in with Chris Hayes starts now.
Believe that. Look at how upset she is. You know that she wanted to call MSNBC's management racist, but she bit her tongue so she could keep her job. And she's probably quite concerned, too, that she's going to have to tamp down the anti-whiteism. Just look at those soulless eyes. Joy Reid, being a part of the media elite, making millions of dollars a year, doesn't notice when her grocery bill goes up by a few $100s, or her electric bill goes up by 50%, or gas goes up by $2 a gallon. In fact, she thinks that nobody is concerned about inflation.
The people I ever hear use the word inflation are journalists and economists, right? So that is not part of the normal lexicon of the way people talk. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it, including on TV, including in newspapers. They've been taught this word.
Imagine being so out of touch with ordinary Americans that you think that nobody talks about or is concerned with inflation. MSNBC is so upset with inflation, not that it's happening and that we all have to pay hundreds of dollars a month more for food, groceries, gas, and pretty much everything, but that Fox News is reporting on it and about crime and immigration. You know, the top 3 issues that voters actually care about when they go to the polls on Tuesday.
Crime, inflation, immigration. That's all they do all day, every day, just going right to the fears of the American people.
We saw J.D. Vance harping on the issue of crime and linking it to things like illegal immigration. Those are the types of issues, the things that drive fear.
They're just coming straight out. And especially during election time, we see it's the caravans again. It's the fear of immigrants.
They were scaring suburban white women with caravans coming to their neighborhood.
You turn on Fox News any time of day, any day of the week, there are 3 messages on repeat: the border crisis, crime on the rise, and inflation.
Wow, maybe you should actually take a page out of their playbook and do some actual reporting. Even CNN, of all places, the fakest name in news, understands that inflation is one of the primary concerns of Americans.
What is the top issue for Americans at this point, and who is trusted on that? The top issue for Americans at this point is not the January 6th committee hearings. It is not Donald Trump. It's inflation, according to 33% of Americans. That is the top issue.
Wow, a broken clock is right twice a day. I never would have imagined that somebody at CNN would be allowed to mention the obvious. Things are going to get really intense here over the next couple days and weeks. And, well, it's probably never going to ease up until never, especially with the 2024 presidential election approaching. But with Elon buying Twitter and firing half of the employees, if we win in the Senate and the House on Tuesday, they're going to blame it all on Elon Musk. And it's going to be great. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is even blaming Elon Musk for censoring her on Twitter after there was a little glitch, as often happens on social media apps, and her mentions didn't pull up right away. My mentions.
I was at a community event in the Bronx in Co-op City. And when I get home, I see a text from my team saying, "Hey, let me know if you need any help with this Elon stuff."
Elon was mocking her on Twitter, by the way, so of course her team needed to come up with some witty reply for her to tweet.
And I was like, what? So I pull up my Twitter app, and it's like gone. Like when you pull up your mentions and stuff like that, it's just like literally like a blank screen. Totally gone.
Yeah, it happened to you and probably millions of other Twitter users because these things happen. If you think that's bad, the other day Elon shut off my entire internet because of the things I was tweeting about him, and I had to unplug my router, and then I had to plug it back in so that it reset. And we're going to hear a lot about misinformation being spread over the internet over the next few days, which means that the liberal media industrial complex is spreading the misinformation, and they're trying to suppress people questioning things or facts and opinions that they don't like, just like the 50 intelligence officers that warned that the New York Post story about Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. So just all 50 of the top heads of the intelligence agencies and former intelligence operatives, they just happen to be wrong. They all just made a mistake. And if you missed them, go watch my in-depth reports on Operation Mockingbird, the CIA's admitted program where they infiltrated the mainstream media to gatekeep and have their assets spread propaganda. I'll leave the clickable thumbnails on the screen. I don't think they show up on mobile, so if you're on mobile, just look in the comments below, and I'll pin a link to those 2 videos down in the comments section. So stay tuned, and I will see you soon.